The alarm screamed through the crystalline corridors of the ship, but Valona could barely hear it anymore. Her people, the Resonance Collective, lived through sound and harmony. Every breath they took created music. Every thought they shared sang through the air in beautiful frequencies that connected mind to mind, heart to heart. But now, floating in the endless black of space, her world had gone silent. Valona pressed her translucent blue hands against the shattered remains of what used to be her ship's harmony chamber. Sharp pieces of crystal lay scattered across the metal floor like broken dreams. Each fragment had once carried the voices of thousands of her people back home, their songs reaching across the stars to comfort her during this long exploration mission. Now they were just sharp, dead pieces that cut her fingers when she touched them. She had been away from home for 6 months, mapping new star systems at the edge of known space. Her ship was small but advanced, capable of traveling between stars faster than light itself. The harmony chambers kept her connected to her people during the lonely journey through the void. Even millions of miles from home, she could hear her family singing the evening prayers, feel her friends sharing jokes and stories, sense the constant warm presence of her entire civilization humming together like one giant musical instrument. Then, the asteroid hit. It came from nowhere, a chunk of rock no bigger than her fist, but moving so fast that it punched through her ship's shields like they were made of paper. The impact sent her vessel spinning out of control. Emergency systems kicked in, stopping the spin and sealing the hull breach, but the damage was done. The asteroid had struck the harmony chamber directly, destroying the delicate crystal matrices. That allowed her to hear home. For 17 days now, Valona had drifted in absolute silence. Her people's greatest fear was not death, but isolation. To be cut off from the collective song of their species was a torture beyond imagination. She could feel pieces of herself beginning to fade, her consciousness slowly dissolving without the constant reinforcement of other minds, touching hers through harmonic resonance. The ship's computers still worked, but she barely understood them. Her people rarely used such crude technology. They navigated by feeling the gravitational songs of stars and planets. They communicated by sharing pure thought through sound waves. The mechanical beeping and flashing lights of the computer meant nothing to her clouded mind. Her body was changing too. The soft blue glow that normally emanated from her crystalline skin had grown dim and gray. Her people were living music, their bodies resonating with the frequencies around them. Without those frequencies, she was becoming something else, something dead and cold, like the crystals scattered on her floor. Food and water were running low, but that seemed unimportant. Now, her body was shutting down from isolation faster than it would from hunger. She had maybe days left before the silence claimed her completely. Valona crawled across the small cabin to her navigation console. Through the transparent aluminum window, she could see stars scattered like dust across the infinite black. Somewhere out there was home, but she could no longer hear its song. She was truly alone in the universe. The ship's emergency beacon had been transmitting for weeks, but it only broadcast on the frequencies her people used. Any rescue vessel would need to be from the collective, and she was too far from there. Territory for anyone to reach her in time. She had accepted this. Death was coming, and she would meet it with what dignity remained to a creature dying of loneliness. But then something impossible happened. Her ship's primitive electromagnetic sensors, the backup systems she had never bothered to learn how to use, began detecting something. A signal, not the beautiful harmonic frequencies of her people, but something else. Something crude and chaotic, full of strange patterns that hurt her mind to perceive. Yet underneath the chaos, she sensed something familiar: purpose, intelligence, life. For the first time in 17 days, Valona felt a spark of hope flicker in her fading consciousness. Whatever was out there was trying to communicate. The signals were alien and harsh compared to her people's elegant songs, but they carried the unmistakable rhythm of a thinking mind reaching out into the darkness. She was not alone, after all. With trembling hands, she activated her ship's communication systems. She had no idea how to respond to these strange signals, but she had to try. Using the last of her strength, she began feeding power into her ship's electrical grid, creating fluctuations that might, somehow, carry her desperate message back to whoever was calling out to her across the void. Jiho stared at the screen for the third time, rubbing his tired eyes. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he could not look away from the readings. Deep Space Station Hanyul was the most remote human outpost, floating alone between star systems like a metal island in an ocean of darkness. Most days nothing happened. Today was different. The object on his scanner was huge, maybe 3 times the size of a human cruiser. It tumbled slowly through space, dark and silent. No heat signatures, no radio signals, no signs of life. But it was clearly built by someone. The hull had smooth curves and strange angles that no human engineer would design. "Control, this is Lieutenant Kim," he spoke into his headset. "I have an unidentified vessel at coordinates 77 Alpha, requesting permission to make contact." Static crackled in his earpiece before the tired voice of Commander Park responded from Earth. "Granted, Lieutenant. Standard first contact procedures. Record everything." Jiho took a deep breath. In all his years of military service, he had never expected to actually use the alien contact training they made him memorize. He activated the communication array and cleared his throat. "Unknown vessel. This is Deep Space Station Hanyul of the Earth Defense Force. Please respond on any frequency. We want to help you." He waited. Nothing came back except the empty hiss of cosmic radiation. Inside the alien ship, Vallona's crystalline body trembled as the strange sounds reached her through her damaged systems. The voice was unlike anything in her experience. Where her people's communication flowed like music, this was harsh and choppy, full of hard consonants and rough edges. But beneath the alien sounds, she could sense something that made her dying heart sing with hope. This creature, whatever it was trying to reach her. The patterns in its voice carried rhythm and purpose. Someone out there knew she existed, and they were not ignoring her. Jiho switched to different languages, broadcasting the same message in Korean, English, Mandarin, and Russian. When that failed to get a response, he moved to mathematics, transmitting prime numbers and basic equations. Still nothing. He was about to give up when his console lit up with warnings. The alien ship's power grid was fluctuating wildly. Energy readings spiked and dropped in regular patterns, creating electrical storms across the vessel's hull. At first he thought the ship was having system failures. But then he noticed something strange. The power fluctuations were not random. They repeated in sequences, like someone tapping out Morse code. But this was not any human communication system. The patterns were too complex, too musical. "Holy shit," Jiho whispered, forgetting military protocol. "You're trying to talk to me, aren't you?" He activated his recording systems and began analyzing the electrical patterns. Each surge of power lasted exactly 2.3 seconds. The gaps between surges varied from half a second to 4 seconds. It was definitely a language. But unlike anything in human databases, Vel's single quotes, Na was using every bit of strength she had left to create the signals. Her people's ships were not designed for crude electromagnetic communication. She had to manually reroute power through different systems, creating electrical discharges that she hoped the alien station could detect. It was exhausting work for someone already dying of isolation, but it was her only chance. She tried to make the signals musical, mimicking the harmonic patterns of her people's language. But the ship's electrical systems were too crude. Everything came out as harsh bursts of energy, instead of the flowing songs she wanted to share. G-Ho worked through the night, drinking cup after cup of coffee as he tried to decode the signals. The patterns were incredibly complex, shifting, and changing like a living song. Whoever was sending them had a completely different way of thinking about communication. Around dawn, he made his first breakthrough. The signals seemed to follow mathematical relationships. When he graphed the timing patterns, they created waveforms that looked almost like music. The alien was not just sending random messages. They were trying to sing to him through electrical current. "This is Ji-Ho Kim calling unknown vessel." He broadcast again. "I can see your signals. I know you're trying to communicate. Let me try something." He programmed his transmission array to send out simple musical tones, starting with basic scales and moving to simple melodies. If the alien was thinking in musical terms, maybe this would make more sense to them. When the first pure musical note reached Velona's ship, her entire body resonated with joy. For weeks she had heard only silence and chaos. Now, finally, she was hearing something that approached real music. It was simple and crude compared to her people's complex harmonies, but it was beautiful in its own way. She immediately began responding, modulating her ship's power systems to create electrical fluctuations that matched the musical frequencies. It was like learning to sing again after losing her voice. Ji-Ho watched his instruments as the alien ship began responding to his musical signals. The electrical patterns were matching his tones, creating crude but recognizable music through pure electromagnetic energy. Tears filled his eyes as he realized what was happening. He was not just talking to an alien, he was making music with them across the void of space. "Control, this is Lieutenant Kim," he said into his headset, his voice shaking with excitement. "We have successful first contact, and they're singing to us." Hayani arrived on the transport ship 3 days later, carrying 2 heavy cases of equipment and a head full of theories about alien languages. She was Earth's best expert on communication with unknown species, though until now her work had been purely theoretical. No one had ever actually found aliens to talk to. "Show me what you have," she said to Ji-Ho as soon as she stepped off the shuttle. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her eyes were bright with excitement. This was the moment she had trained her whole life for. Ji-Ho led her to the communication station, where dozens of screens showed the musical patterns they had been exchanging with the alien ship. "We can send simple tones back and forth," he explained, "but I cannot figure out what any of it means. Sometimes the alien responds quickly, sometimes there are long pauses. I think they might be trying to teach me something, but I am too stupid to understand." Hayane studied the wave patterns on the screens. The aliens' responses were incredibly complex, full of harmonics and overtones that human music rarely used. It was like looking at the mathematical equations of a symphony written by someone who thought in pure mathematics. "You are not stupid," she told Ji-Ho. "This is the most complex communication system I have ever seen. Their language is not just musical, it is music. Every sound carries multiple layers of meaning." She began setting up her equipment, connecting advanced computers to the station's communication array. The computers could analyze thousands of frequencies at once, breaking down each alien signal into its component parts. If there was a pattern to be found, her machines would find it. Inside her ship, Velona felt a change immediately when the new mind joined the conversation. The musical signals became more sophisticated, full of mathematical precision that reminded her of her own people's techniques. Whoever this new alien was, they understood music in ways the first one did not. She began sending more complex harmonies, building elaborate musical structures that carried the basic concepts her people used to share ideas, numbers, time, space, self, other. These were the building blocks of all communication. If these strange aliens could understand her mathematical music, they might be able to truly talk. "Look at this," Hayane said, pointing to her screen where the alien's latest message was displayed as a 3-dimensional graph. They are not just sending one signal. They are sending dozens of signals at the same time, all woven together. It is like they are singing in harmony with themselves. Ji-Ho leaned over her shoulder, What does it mean? I think this part represents counting, she said, highlighting a series of tones that increased in mathematical progression. And this section might be about time. See how it repeats in regular cycles. They are trying to teach us their basic concepts. 4 hours they worked together, sending mathematical sequences back to the alien and analyzing the responses. Slowly, painfully, they began to build a simple translation system. The alien would send a concept in their musical language, and high-end computers would try to convert it into human mathematics. The breakthrough came when Valena sent them her name. She wove her identity into a complex musical pattern that described her crystalline nature, her connection to the harmonic collective, and her current state of dying isolation. When Hyane's computers processed the signal, they produced a readout that made her gasp. Jiho, look at this. The alien is not just giving us her name. She is telling us what she is made of, where she comes from, and what is wrong with her. The translation was crude, but clear enough. The alien was some kind of crystalline being from a species that lived through musical communication. She was dying not from mechanical failure, but from being cut off from her people's collective song. Her species literally could not survive alone. How long does she have? Jiho asked quietly. Hyane ran the calculations through her system, analyzing the degradation patterns in the alien signals. The musical complexity was decreasing with each transmission, like a battery slowly running down, maybe 2 weeks, 3 at most. Her mind is fading without contact from her own kind. Jiho stared at the display showing their distant alien friend. Rescue ships were still weeks away, traveling as fast as human technology could manage. Even if they reached her in time to fix her ship, it might be too late to save her mind. Then we do not let her be alone, he said firmly. If she needs musical contact to survive, we give her as much as we can. Hyane nodded and began programming her computers for continuous communication. They would talk to Valona around the clock, sending her music and mathematical conversations to keep her consciousness anchored. It was a desperate plan, but it was all they had. Valona Hyane spoke into the microphone, using the crude pronunciation they had worked out. We understand now. You are not alone. We will stay with you. The response came back immediately. A burst of musical joy so complex and beautiful that it made both humans smile, despite not understanding most of it. They did not need perfect translation to recognize gratitude. The alien was no longer dying alone in the dark. She had friends now, strange alien friends who sang to her across the void in their own peculiar way. The message from Deep Space Station Hanyul reached Earth 12 hours later, traveling at the speed of light across the vast emptiness between stars. When Commander Park read Jiho's report about the dying alien, she immediately forwarded it to the highest levels of Earth's government. Within hours, the story was spreading across every news network on the planet. We have made first contact with an alien species, the news anchors announced. But she is dying of loneliness, and we are the only ones who can save her. Dr. Manesio Lee was eating breakfast in his small apartment in Seoul when he saw the news report. As Earth's leading expert in acoustic therapy, he understood immediately what the alien needed. Music was not just entertainment for her species. It was life itself. He grabbed his equipment and caught the next shuttle to the communication center. Meanwhile, on Deep Space Station, Hanyul, Jiho, and Hyone had not slept in 36 hours. They took turns talking to Valona, sending her mathematical music and simple conversation through their translation system. But they could see her signals getting weaker with each transmission. Her musical patterns were becoming simpler, like a brilliant composer slowly forgetting how to write complex songs. She is fading faster than we expected, Hyane said, studying the latest readouts. Dark circles shadowed her eyes from exhaustion. Her people must need constant contact with multiple minds. 2 of us are not enough. Jiho looked at the long-range scanners, showing the empty space around them. The rescue ships were still weeks away. Even the fastest vessels in Earth's fleet could not reach them in time. Then we get more people. He activated the emergency communication system that connected their station to Earth's global network. Within minutes, he was talking to volunteers around the world. "This is Lieutenant Kim calling from Deep Space Station, Hanyo. We need your help to save an alien life. She needs to hear voices, music, anything that proves she is not alone. Can you help us?" The response was overwhelming. Within an hour, communication signals from Earth were flooding their station's receivers. Children sang lullabies from their bedrooms. Elderly musicians played traditional songs on instruments passed down through generations. Entire choirs practiced in their churches and transmitted their voices across space. Dr. Manesio arrived at the Seoul Communication Center with a team of acoustic specialists. They began composing music specifically designed to resonate with Velona's crystalline physiology. Using the mathematical patterns Hayane had discovered, they created harmonic structures that mimicked the collective songs of her people. Her species processes sound in layers, Dr. Manesio explained to his team as they worked through the night. Each frequency carries different information. If we can create multiple harmonic layers, we might be able to give her something closer to what she needs. On the station, Jiho and Hayane coordinated the global effort. They organized transmission schedules so that Velona would receive a constant stream of human voices and music. When the day shift ended in Seoul, the night shift began in New York. When America slept, Australia and New Zealand took over. The sun never set on humanity's vigil for their dying alien friend. Velona felt the change immediately when the flood of new voices reached her ship. Instead of two simple patterns, she was now receiving dozens of complex signals at once. The humans were creating something like the collective consciousness she had lost. It was crude and chaotic compared to her people's perfect harmonies, but it was beautiful in its own wild way. For the first time in weeks, her crystalline body began to glow with soft blue light. The constant stream of human communication was giving her mind something to hold on to, preventing the slow dissolution that came with complete isolation. Through their growing translation system, she began to learn about her rescuers. The humans told her about their blue-green planet with its vast oceans and diverse life forms. They shared stories of their history, their struggles and triumphs, their dreams of exploring the stars. She told them about her crystalline cities that sang with the voices of millions, about the way her people shared thoughts and emotions through pure harmonic resonance. "We thought your kind were chaos makers," she told them through carefully modulated electrical patterns that Hayane's computers translated into text. "Your signals scatter across the cosmos without pattern or purpose. We never imagined there was such beauty in the chaos." Hayane smiled as she read the translation. "Maybe chaos is just harmony we have not learned to understand yet," she replied, converting her words into the musical mathematics that Velona could comprehend. The global vigil continued day and night. Famous musicians composed new pieces inspired by Velona's plight. Scientists worked to improve the translation systems. Children around the world went to sleep knowing they were helping keep an alien friend alive by sharing their voices across the vast darkness of space. But time was running out. Even with humanity's constant communication, Velona's life signs continued to weaken. The rescue ships were still days away, racing through space as fast as their engines could carry them. Everyone involved in the project knew they were in a desperate race against time. The question was not whether they could reach her. The question was whether their voices would be enough to keep her alive until help arrived. Captain Minho Seo stood on the bridge of the starship Ararang, watching the scanner displays as his fleet approached the coordinates where the alien vessel drifted. 3 weeks had passed since the rescue mission began, and his ships had pushed their engines beyond safe limits to get here in time. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, all of them aware that they might be too late. "Visual contact," reported his navigator. "Dead ahead, 2,000 kilometers." On the main screen, Velona's ship appeared as a dark silhouette against the stars. It tumbled slowly through space, showing no lights, no energy signatures, no signs of life. The hull was scarred and pitted from micrometeorite impacts, and a large gash near the front section showed where the original asteroid had struck. "It looks completely dead," whispered the communications officer. Minho felt his heart sink. They had traveled for weeks, listening to the constant stream of messages between Earth and the alien. Humanity had poured its heart into keeping Velena alive, with people around the world taking shifts to talk to her, sing to her, share their lives with her across the impossible distance of space. Had it all been for nothing? "Sir," called his science officer, "I am detecting very faint power." Readings from the vessel. "Something is still working inside, but barely." "Can you reach Deep Space Station, Hanuel?" Minho asked. The communications officer nodded and opened a channel. Jiho's tired face appeared on the screen. The young lieutenant looked like he had not slept in days, his uniform wrinkled and his eyes red from exhaustion. "Captain Seo, thank God you made it," Jiho said. "We lost contact with Velona 6 hours ago. Her ship went completely dark. We have been transmitting continuously, but there has been no response." Minho studied the dead alien vessel on his screen. "What are her chances if she is still alive?" "Hyena thinks her consciousness might be in some kind of hibernation state," Jiho replied. "Her people can shut down their higher brain functions to survive extreme isolation, but they need outside stimulus to wake up again. If you can get close enough, try broadcasting on the same frequencies we have been using." "Understood. We will do everything we can." Minho ordered his fleet to surround the alien ship. The rescue vessels moved into position, their powerful lights illuminating the dark hull. Engineering teams prepared boarding equipment while medical specialists readied the isolation chambers they had built, based on Hyane's research into Velona species. "All ships, begin broadcasting on the established frequencies," Minho commanded. "Use everything we have learned about her species. Songs, mathematical patterns, human voices. Let her know we are here." The rescue fleet's communications arrays came alive, flooding the dead alien ship with signals. They transmitted the recordings that children from Earth had made, the musical compositions that Dr. Menesio's team had created, and the mathematical harmonies that Hyane had developed over weeks of patient communication. For long minutes, nothing happened. The alien ship continued its slow tumble through space, dark and silent. Then, suddenly, the vessel blazed with light. Harmonic resonance erupted from every surface of Velena's ship. The hull itself began to sing, creating complex musical patterns that made the human instruments go wild with readings. It was as if the entire spacecraft had become a giant musical instrument, playing a song of pure joy and relief. "She is alive," shouted the communications officer. "Captain, the harmonic patterns are off the charts. I have never seen anything like this." Inside her ship, Velona felt consciousness returning like dawn breaking after an endless night. The flood of human voices and music washed over her crystalline form, bringing life back to systems that had nearly shut down forever. She could hear Jiho and Hyane calling her name through the static, could feel the presence of the rescue ships surrounding her like protective guardians. But more than that, she could sense something she had never expected. The humans were not just rescuing her body, they were sharing their own collective consciousness with her, offering their voices and thoughts and hearts to replace what she had lost when her connection to her own people was severed. "Velena, can you hear us?" Minho's voice came through the communication system. "We are here to help you. You are not alone anymore." Her response came back immediately. A burst of harmonic patterns so beautiful and complex that it brought tears to the eyes of everyone who heard it. The translation computers worked frantically to convert her musical language into human words. "I hear you," the message read when it finally appeared on their screens. "I hear all of you. Thank you for keeping me alive. Thank you for not letting me die alone in the dark." The rescue took 3 hours. Engineering teams carefully cut through the damaged hull, while medical specialists monitored Vallona's vital signs. When they finally reached her, they found her crystalline body, glowing with soft blue light, her consciousness fully restored by the constant contact with human minds. As they carried her to the medical bay aboard the Arorong, Vallona looked up at the faces of her rescuers. These strange beings with their chaotic voices and crude technology had done something that even her own advanced civilization might not have managed. They had reached across the vast emptiness of space and refused to let a dying alien face the universe alone. The rescue fleet turned toward Earth, carrying the first alien ambassador in human history. But more than that, they carried proof that sometimes the most important technology is not faster ships or better weapons, but the simple determination to answer when someone calls for help in the darkness.